Hello, this is Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network every Thursday from 1 to 1:30 p.m. I'm your host, Danilo Cuellar, and today we have Jeremy Henggeler from Long Island, a voluntarist who has had his own business of walking dogs, taking care of dogs, teaching behavioral I don't know how you say behavioral techniques to dogs, and is another fighter for liberty. So Jeremy, so tell us about how you became a voluntarist.
Well, I took a road like most people. I spent a lot of my life not paying attention. Um, Voting just whenever it struck me. I didn't really care. And then as I got closer to 30 and I started my business, I obviously started paying a little more attention because once you get out and you have your own home and you have your you have actual responsibility, then you start paying attention to what the government's doing to you because a lot of your money starts disappearing and you don't understand why. So I finally started paying attention, and after being a very liberal, Democrat, but the low info kind most of my life, I decided that that must have been the problem, and I ran right to the Republican Party and tried to find the Tea Party, and then eventually moved on to libertarianism. And then shortly after I found libertarianism, one of the first people I met was the first person to introduce me to the word voluntaryism, which I had never heard before. And I started doing my investigation from there. And after fighting him on it for a while and still insisting that, still being a constitutionalist and being a small government libertarian and thinking that was the answer, and fighting him on a tooth and nail, I finally just took his advice one day. He kept telling me every once in a while, he would just read Rothbard. And I thought he was just being being snarky because I had seen other people write it and say it, and I was like, and then one day I decided to take him up on it, and I haven't looked back since. I read What Has Government Done to Our Money, and I was off to the races. And now a couple of years later, here I am.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like a slap in the face, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you also you had a brief moment where you were involved in the Libertarian Party, right?
Yes, I actually tried running for office.
Wow.
That was the final nail in the coffin. I call it the period in my life where my attachment to minarchism was in its death throes, because I was just waiting for that thing to push me over the edge. And I was with the local Libertarian Party, and they asked me to run for a local office because they just wanted to fill a slot on the ballot, and I said, why not? And then I got all excited about it because they started talking me up, and I said, sure, we'll give this a go. And then we couldn't even get on the ballot because the Republicans and Democrats did everything they could to collude to keep us off the ballot altogether.
Wow.
And that was actually what was the final nail in the coffin. And I said, that's it. There's no possible way to do this the quote unquote legal way and the constitutional way. It just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So I gave up on that dream very quickly.
I remember when I used to I was in my journey and I discovered the word constitutionalist, and I'm like, that's what I am. I like that.
Yeah.
And I actually bought a book that had the Bill of Rights, the U.S. Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence all together. And I was so proud. I'm like, it's like, if any government agent comes, just take this book out and look through it.
Oh. Yeah.
But yeah, that's I guess that's that's the transition, right? So many people get affected. By Ron Paul. I'm sure you got affected by Ron Paul as well. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, as opposed to a lot of other people I've met. I wasn't, like he didn't sweep me in like he did a lot of my friends, because I still wasn't paying attention that much to politics when he was really pushing. So I wasn't. I mean, I met him a couple of times, and I read some of his stuff, and I thought it was great. But he actually wasn't as big an impact on me as he was on other people.
Oh, okay.
But the constitutionalist thing, yeah, that definitely was me. When I heard that same thing, when I heard that word, I was like, that's me. And
Yeah.
I actually got a bunch. I went through, I think, Cato and got like the stack of 100 mini pocket constitutions, and I just was giving them out to people whenever I met them. And I carried one in my pocket at all times, and I would read from it daily.
Wow.
To the point where I had most of it I could just recite it. I was just like you. I was so proud of myself.
I know, right? It's like some people describe, I guess, voluntarists like like Jehovah Witnesses. You go around knocking on people's doors, giving out the Bible, trying to convert.
Yeah.
But it's not like that. It's more like like that meme. They say we just want to take over the world to leave you alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, that's the gist of it. But most people don't understand that because they get fed the propaganda that we don't want that we want to ruin their lives, and we want to take away all the wonderfulness that government gives them. Of course, completely missing the irony that they're giving it to themselves.
Yeah.
And they're getting screwed. They're still getting screwed in the process.
Yeah. And then like I get so often the black and white fallacy, which is like, I went to high school and I learned stuff in high school. So you're saying you should do away with school, with learning and education? Mm-hmm. How are you don't want people to be educated, right? Do you get that too?
Oh yeah, well it's like it's like that, or the roads conversation. It's all the same. The black and white fallacy is one of the most common ones I see.
Yeah.
And one of the earliest ones I caught myself doing when I first started relearning logic and getting involved, starting my journey. I started to catch myself doing it all the time, and I'm like, oh, I gotta stop that. And now I see it in people all the time, and all of them. They all fall into that category because it's automatically. You don't want the government to do this? Who's going to do it? Nobody else but the government can. Those are the only options.
Yeah.
Either government or certain death.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and actually, there's a guy, Mark Stevens. I sent you a couple of his videos, I think.
Yes.
Right, and I interviewed him, and I'm gonna upload that soon. But he always said, every time he mentioned the word government, he says, "There's no government. It's just people with guns trying to steal from you."
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
right. So, because when you say the word government, it's sometimes, again, another euphemism, like saying these people are different, separate, from us, and they're special, and they have special rights that we don't have, right? So it can be kind of confusing, If the government doesn't do it, then who will? Because the government, they're special people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but that goes back to the problem with language, where we all fall victim to it. Because it's the common vernacular. You can't help yourself, sometimes. Because most of our lives, we've all thought of the government. We don't think about the fact that it doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
Same argument with a lot of people who want to get into the minutia between, some people who use the term the state versus the government. And those two are actually two separate things. But most people use the words interchangeably. Language is a pain in the butt, man. It's the root of most of our problems.
So how would you differentiate government and the state?
Well, I mean, at least from what I've been able to understand, the difference is government is the form that it takes. The state is like this overarching thing that that when we think about when we as voluntarists, I know myself, when I say stuff like I want to end the state, or I just want the state to go away, that to me, that's an overarching thing where it's any form of government, just the power structure in any country, and it's everywhere, and but the government itself is what runs the state, and then of course it's people that actually run the government. So it's like I said, most people, I fall into it all the time. I use government and the state interchangeably. Same thing with like anarchist and voluntarist and all the different words and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, which is tricky. It's a pain in the butt. And I used to preach, be clear in your language, and language has meaning. And I try really hard to stick to that, but it gets tough sometimes.
Do you differentiate between anarchists and voluntarists?
To a certain extent, I look at anarchist as the overarching, umbrella that
Mm-hmm.
everything else falls underneath. And,
Mm-hmm.
then you have the separate, if you want to get into the people that are like, the anarchists with adjectives, all the different ones, ANCAP, ANCOM, ANSIND, all this different stuff.
Yeah.
Um, or just, voluntarist. It's basically, like I said, I think I can use the words interchangeably, but there is, I guess, slight differences. So I just think as anarchist is the overarching thing,
Mm-hmm.
and voluntarist falls just a notch underneath that, but they're basically synonymous.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I like. I mean, I guess some people who like to, incite the irritation of people, they use anarchists more. And other people who want to maybe stimulate, some questioning, use voluntarists because not many people like have heard that term. Like, what's a
yeah,
voluntarist, right?
yeah, no, and I get that too because when I used to hear the word anarchist, I automatically went to the chaos definition and never realized there was other definitions, and
Yeah.
so I understand why people get like that. So I used to shy away from the word for a while,
Mm-hmm.
for that very reason. Um, and now I use it a lot more because like I said, I try to be clear with my language, and I try to be, I try to impart on other people that, that language has meaning. And I find myself saying that to a lot of people, whether having conversations with them, or, stuff over the internet and stuff like that, discussions I get into there. Just, I say it a lot, type it all the time, language has meaning. You got to stop, because people just use words, and then when you call them on it, they'll say, "Oh, you know what I mean." Well, no, I don't know what you mean because
Yeah.
you use a word that doesn't actually fit there, and
Yeah.
you think it does, and people have been, led to believe certain words mean certain things, which
Yeah.
gets back to,
Uh-huh.
other conversations you and I have had about that, taxation, versus theft, and how they're actually synonymous, but people think they're different because they gave it a different name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely get that. It's not theft because I enjoy paying taxes
Yeah.
because we need roads and bridges.
Well, if you enjoy paying taxes, fully for you, man.
Yeah.
Do not, and most of the people I know, even people who think I'm nutty for being for being an anarchist, don't pay their taxes because they want to, or even because they think it's for the greater good. They do it out of fear of being harassed and
Oh yeah.
possibly locked in a cage.
Oh yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
so
Yeah. I got a letter recently for jury duty, right? And and it's been a while since I got one of those letters, right? But it says on the letter, you must, by law, fill out this questionnaire and submit it. And you won't necessarily be picked, right?
mm.
But just the fact that it says by law, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I don't want
Well, see,
to.
that's a tough one, but I get what you're saying. The principle there, yeah,
It's
absolutely. I usually reject things on their face when they start off like that too. But
it's like it's like that would be the argumentum ad baculum, right? The appeal to
yes,
the stick,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like fine, you don't have to do it, but I have this stick right here, all right?
Exactly. Although, like I said, in that case, jury duty is the one thing. It's a tricky one because I try to stay away from as much interaction with the state as humanly possible. And I'm pushing even further now. Like I've taken my business. I'm trying to get out of the banking system, and I'm trying to go to straight precious metals, cryptocurrency,
Nice.
barter. I've actually offered barter, a barter plan with some of my clients.
Awesome.
But I try to avoid dealing with them at all costs. But jury duty, the one time I think it's worth it to go and be a part of the state apparatus because you can talk up jury nullification if you can manage to get
True.
through.
That's true.
If
Yeah.
you can manage, because I've heard a lot of people have gone in and said that straight up during the interview process that they're going to attempt to nullify whatever, and they obviously don't get picked.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you do have to lie a little bit, I guess, to get yourself in there. But
Yeah.
then you have a real opportunity.
That's true.
Like the voting for me, it's beyond me. I don't think there's any hope whatsoever. And I think people, while well intentioned, certain libertarians and certain voluntarists that I know that'll still use the voting system because they think, at least they're going to try to do something while they're there. I don't think that's worth it. But the jury nullification thing, I think that's something that, people should jump on.
Mm-hmm.
I know if next time I get called, I fully intend to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did consider that, but then at the same time, I'm like, I just hate the idea of giving my information to or any more information than they already know. Like
they have everything anyway.
I know exactly. Like, but still, I just, especially when you see by law, I'm like, oh man, that just got.
Yeah.
Maybe if they said please, maybe.
Oh, come on now.
So,
the government's not into asking nicely.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's cool. You're taking your business. You said you're you're going to be more into like direct cash or barter.
Well, I don't. Well, most of my clients, because I send out a letter a couple times a year to tell them about the goings on with my company and vacation time and all that stuff. And I recently sent one out and I finally made the decision. I said, all right, I want to get out of the banking system. Because I would like to get away from Federal Reserve notes altogether because they just lose value every day anyway. They're not doing us any good.
Yeah.
Unless you're turning it over right away and replace, and buying stuff that you could, that you can hold on to.
Yeah.
Or exchanging it for precious metals or cryptocurrency right away. You're just losing value anyway. So I'm trying to steer myself away from that.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I had to do is, let my clients down easy and tell them first I just couldn't accept checks anymore just because I want to get out of the banking system. So I don't want to have to deal with banks anymore. So that means obviously cash, or if I told every one of them I prefer if you would be willing to pay me in gold or silver.
Nice.
Or I'll start off with bitcoins and then see where it goes.
I'll take your sterling silverware.
Well, yeah. I mean, or like I said, I offered barter to some of my clients who are willing to take me up on that. I just, it's for me. Everything comes down to principles for me. So,
sure.
I try to, I'm basically trying to lead by example. So, what can I do in my small part over here? I can take my business to, start taking the steps to get to that point where I am that type of business, and hopefully it will encourage others. Because I specifically in the letter I sent to my clients, I specifically added a couple of lines saying, "Listen, if this confuses anybody, or you'd like to talk about this, or this interests you in any way, feel free to contact me."
Mm-hmm.
Opening the doors of communication and hopefully getting the message out there even more. That just
cool.
Leading the systems dry is the only way we're going to be able to do anything. Because and the best way we can do that is to convince people to stop using the Federal Reserve notes and, not let them steal our money that way on top of everything else they do.
Yeah. Like I just posted the voting the voting video today, and one of the interesting comments, one guy was talking about voting. It's good because you can turn down different bills that are for increased taxation. You can reject those, but yeah, sometimes it just legitimizes the whole system, the whole corrupt system by participating in that way, and so I think there's just so many other better alternatives to do that. Like that, and also like I'm an acupuncturist and herbalist, Chinese herbalist, and so I've started doing also bartering, and it's a good feeling. It's nice, that people, because people are struggling now, with money, and I want to treat people, and they need treatment. So if they have something that they can trade, some skill, so it's a win-win, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
well, yeah.
So let me get your thoughts on the recent smackdown of the precious metals prices. The silver and gold prices now. What do you think about that?
How far? Honestly, I haven't been on the past 2 days. How far is gold down?
Oh my God! Silver is now, I think today is like $17.50 an ounce, and gold is like $1,220 an ounce.
It's low enough for me.
Yeah,
silver I get when I can. Gold's still not low enough for me.
Yeah, I mean,
rich for my blood.
I mean, I couldn't believe it because like when I started buying it, like I think I started buying like 2 years ago. It was like $32 an ounce, and and even at that time, I was telling my wife, I'm like, in 2011, it used to be 49. This is a bargain. You know, we got to
Yeah.
get it. I'm like,
Yeah.
it can't stay like this for long. And so from her perspective, it's just been a loss, right?
Yeah.
Because
Well, yeah.
it's just gone down, down, down. And I'm like, you can't look at it like that. It's not a profit making thing, right? It's like
Well, it can be if you want it to be, but no, for people like us, no, it's not.
yeah.
It's preparedness is what it boils down to. But yeah, I mean, what I think about it, unfortunately, anytime I see any major change in any commodity or any or any currency, I automatically first thoughts automatically go to government manipulation somehow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like they're helping artificially drive down the prices so they can, so people will start, so the, less informed will start selling whatever they have in a panic, and they can swoop in and buy more. I think I saw Jeff Berwick from the Dollar Vigilante had something about that a couple days ago. I think that was his thought process on it, and it made sense to me.
Yeah,
not saying, I haven't looked. I honestly haven't investigated it enough. Because I'm just an amateur when it comes to it. Like I said, I'm taking my business that route, just because, from a principled standpoint, and and like I said, and also trying to, as an outreach to show other people what I'm doing, and maybe they can do it too. But I don't know, I don't follow it as closely as as others do, or maybe even I should.
yeah. No, I mean,
I kept hearing about a crazy drop. There was a bunch of people that were shouting that gold was going to drop to 600 again, and I think that's where the talk of the manipulation came in. I mean, if it comes to that, I'll mortgage whatever I have to for the short term. If gold drops to 600, I'll find a way to buy at least 5 or 6 ounces.
No, silver. I'm telling you, silver all the way.
Silver all the time. Silver I stock up on whenever I can.
Silver all the way. Yeah. Yeah, gold is there's this channel I follow, Truth Never Told, and the guy is a big silver advocate, and same thing. Mike Maloney from goldsilver.com, he pretty much says the same thing, that the disparities between gold and silver are so exaggerated that when they actually do revert back to what they should be, it's gonna be like it's gonna go past the mark, way past the mark.
Really?
And so, some people say, it's going to be like parity, equal price between gold and silver. Other people say it's going to be, silver is going to be more valuable than gold because of the nature of it. Like, it's consumed and it's used so much in industry as compared with gold, right, which is just hoarded and stored in central bank vaults, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. That's actually what got me into voluntarism in the beginning, was studying precious metals in the monetary system and Federal Reserve, central banking, all that stuff. It's kind of fascinating because, like, who's interested in that? It's like if you tell somebody, what are you interested? Oh, I like the economy. I learn about the economy.
Yeah.
Like let me ask you that. When you're talking to somebody and you want to spark their interest in this kind of genre, what do you tell them that you're interested in? How do you phrase it?
I think when it comes to like economics and stuff, the phrase I use most often is I'm just a student. I'm a student of economics.
Okay.
Because like I was saying before, when it comes to enlightening others,
okay.
or at least showing them the path and hoping they step on it, take a walk.
Yeah.
It varies from person to person, and so I don't go in with any preset notion of what I'm going to talk about. I just have a bunch. I have something tiny chambered for virtually any discussion I can think of,
Okay.
and then I wait to see either the questions they ask or something they bring up that they're interested in, that I can find a way to shift the conversation to a more voluntarist friendly perspective, and maybe get them to see some stuff. But yeah, when it comes to I think a student of economics is the student, but far from a master. I think I've used that a couple times recently.
Nice. That's
But
good.
yeah, because it's just like, most people don't, like you were saying, most people think it's boring.
Oh yeah, big time.
Economists. Well, that's why the governments are. Well, oh, sorry, we were talking about this before. The people who run the governments are, in order to be clear with our language, the people who run the governments like everybody to think that economics is boring, because then they don't pay attention to it, and then they can get away with whatever they get away with, because most people, the experts will handle it. We don't, it's way over our head. We can't possibly understand that, or it's too dull. I don't want to bother to learn. But,
exactly. Yeah.
I came down this path the similar way you did. Reading stuff on the Federal Reserve and stuff. Once you get into it, it's kind of hard to stop, though. It's just getting yourself willing to read that stuff.
and what's fascinating too is that if you look on like regular news stations like CBS, NBC, Fox, and all that, and they start talking about the economy, and they start talking about the Federal Reserve, they will say things like the Fed met today, and as a result of their minutes meeting, they decided to keep interest rates low, near zero, and unemployment's going up by such a percentage, and and this is and it's like it's such complicated stuff, really, and it's just given out to people as if it's assuming that everybody understands what exactly the Federal Reserve is, what exactly quantitative easing is, what's the difference between currency and money, and I think it's just kind of funny how it's like they want it to go over people's heads. That's what they want,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I heard somebody talking about this the other day, and I don't remember who it was, but I caught somebody speaking pretty much about the newscast and stuff like that. And I think part of the problem is, half the newscasters don't know what the hell they're talking about anyway.
Yeah, that too.
Cue card or the cue card. I'm aging myself here off the teleprompter. Off the teleprompter.
Uh-huh.
Most of them, and the ones that do know, are probably in the elite level where they're making profits all this anyway, so they're not going to say anything. So you're exactly right. They say this stuff like it's commonplace.
Yeah.
Because most people are either not paying attention or will just nod along and go, oh, that's
I know, right?
Okay, that's got to be it. Yep. Okay, good. Keeping interest rates low.
Excellent. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, let's keep artificially messing with the money supply. Awesome. It's nothing but good can come from that. It's nothing but unicorns and roses. It's going to be great.
As long as the experts say it, it must be good, right? So how can the experts be wrong, right?
Yes.
And I get that a lot. Like, if I start going into, the Mandrake mechanism and currency creation with people, especially with people who even majored in economics, they tell me, you don't understand what you're talking about. This is very complicated stuff, okay? And just leave it up to the experts,
Well, yeah, of course. Well, I think we were talking about before about fallacies, and that's probably the second biggest one is appeal to authority.
Yeah.
Get that one at the top. But that's basically what they're doing. They're just like, oh, we studied this, and you don't know anything, and
exactly.
But yeah, the experts. The people who have done all that studying, those are the hardest people to reach because they've been indoctrinated harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's even harder to break them. And they don't want to hear anything we have to say. We can't possibly know anything if we didn't, get that 4-year degree. And I don't know how many times I've had the phrase, you don't know anything about Econ 101 thrown in my face. And I'm like,
really?
I didn't even realize that Econ 101 is nothing compared to what I've learned on my own.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly. By studying the different schools of thought outside of the college setting and seeing the flaws in all of them and going, yeah, there's something very wrong with the way people are taught economics. It's not as complicated as they make it. There's just a lot of gibberish in there to confuse people. And it's just and government government interference that just makes everything run the way that make people think it's difficult and hard to understand. Smoke and mirrors is all it is.
Smoke and mirrors, yeah. Have you ever seen the Zeitgeist trilogy movies?
I watched part of the first one, but I never got around to finishing it.
Okay.
I read up a little bit. I don't know the whole deal with it. Is that the Peter Joseph stuff?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
The most I know about him is his debates with Molyneux.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's what really actually I think before even studying economics, I learned about that, which is interesting because in a sense he does talk a little bit about economics because in the first one he does delve into the Federal Reserve and currency creation and fractional reserve banking. Um, so then, from that sense, it's pretty accurate, right? But then once he gets into the Venus Project and resource-based economy.
Yeah.
then like at the time, I thought wow, that's a great idea. That sounds pretty awesome, because I didn't really know of anything else, And then once I started reading other things, you realize like, wait a minute, somebody's also controlling this society, and it's a magical society where nobody works, and we have everything we ever need.
Right? Yet we're called the utopians.
Yeah, exactly.
That always makes me laugh.
Yeah. So people call you that. You just.
Oh yeah, one of the common criticisms is a utopian society, and it can never be achieved. Which in and of itself is a fallacy to even say that to people. Because in all honesty, I mean, at least the way I look at it, every form of government, or in our case, the form of no government that we would like to see, is somebody's idea of a utopia.
Yeah.
So the argument itself is a moot point, I think, when it comes to any, like, I even think when people say communist or utopia, like, to me that's a ridiculous argument, because everybody, every form, to the constitutionalist, the form of government we live under is a utopia to them, because it's not the way it's being handled now, but if the Constitution was being followed to a T, to them that would be a utopia. But on the other hand, okay, if you want to call what we are searching for a utopia, so what? Isn't that the ideal? Isn't that what everybody should be trying to attain, whether it's impossible or not? Shouldn't the ideal in any situation be what you're always striving for?
Yeah.
Because if not, you're just settling, right?
Yeah.
In any situation, any facet of life, if you're not striving for excellence, and to strive for excellence means you're never satisfied, even if you're the top of the game, you still want to try harder. So, to me, when people call me utopian, like I said, it depends on the person I'm talking to. But if that gets thrown at me, it depends on the person, and I'll go one of two ways. I'll either go automatically to, well, any form is utopian, so it's a moot point. What else you got? Or if they want to persist a little harder, I say, okay, fine, it's a utopia. Why shouldn't we strive for that? I'm not, I just think it's it's high time we tried something different. So why not start getting people to think like this, and
And the other thing is, regardless if it's possible or impossible, the whole idea of voluntarism it makes sense, because it's basically the golden rule of morality, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? And I remember one of Mike Shanklin's posts is like, you're a decent person if you apply that principle to your family and friends, right? You're considered a moral person, but when you apply that universally, you become a voluntarist. Right? So it's just like not making any exceptions. And so regardless if that society is possible or impossible, don't you just want to treat people that way? I forget about having a utopia society. Like, just treat people nice. Don't take people's stuff. Don't infringe on people's property. I mean, it's just simple to me. It makes sense. It's logical. And what do you think?
Well, it makes to people like us, of course, it makes sense, because we think logically, but that's part of the problem, though. The reason most people can't see that, like you're saying, it sounds so simple, because we've already made the leap, and we've already seen the other side. The people that can't, in order for them to be that nice and not harm other people, means they have to do a lot of self-examination, and once they do, that's when they'll finally realize, you have to be able to see the immorality of government itself, or of the state, or however you want to phrase it. you have to be able to see that, and that's when you can start really treating everybody. Because if you just say, okay, yeah, I'm going to start treating everybody nice, and I want to be nice, yeah, it makes sense to a certain extent, but people don't want to let go of certain things, so that's why they fight that, and that's why, as simple as it seems to us, yeah, you should just be able to treat everybody like that, and then everything will just fall into place.
Yeah.
Because in order for that to happen, people have to admit that they were wrong, and that's one of the hardest things for most people to do.
True. Yeah.
I know that was for me when I was fighting, through my minarchism towards the end, everybody who brought stuff to my attention was just like, look, it's just, government's just not necessary. You're just bigger picture. And I fought and fought and fought. And that's what it was. I didn't want to admit that because it meant I had to admit that I was wrong, and in a big way. Like, I had been misguided, even when I thought I found the truth with constitutionalism and all that stuff. I had still been misguided, and I was still wrong. The hardest thing for people to do, man.
Treat everybody nice, right? But I still vote. Right? Don't steal from people, but these people should be taxed, right? People are nice, except those people across the ocean in that country. Those people are not nice. those people need to be punished. But people over here, we're nice.
Yeah. Well, that's the disconnect that keeps most people statists.
Yeah.
They can't make the connections because they don't use logic, they don't use logic consistently, and that's the only way you're able to accept what government supposedly does in our name, is by being able to have that disconnect and being able to be like, exactly, it's those people are bad, not these people, or our government's good, it's their government that's bad.
Oh yeah.
Or even worse, it's just some of the people in government that are bad. It's not government's not bad. No, we can just replace the people and it'll be better.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So this is an argument I get pretty frequently. Is like, okay, so I understand what you're trying to do. You don't like government, but there's going to be people who are going to pollute. Businesses, they just want to make a profit. All they care about is the bottom line. They're going to pollute the air, the water, the soil. We need people to protect us from them. How are we going to protect ourselves from those people when that's their bottom line? They don't care about anything. They just want to make a profit.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody like that?
Well, usually when I get that argument, my first question is, so you're telling me that none of that stuff happens right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Which usually baffles most people. You usually trip them up right. A lot of people, you'll trip up right there, because then they'll have to backpedal immediately and say, of course, of course. And, to me, I try to boil it down, like I said, it depends on the person. It depends on where you think you can find an in with them. But with that particular one, I usually just, I start off by saying, well, does it happen now? Okay. Once I get them to agree to say, okay, well, yes, that is occurring now. So government isn't actually doing anything to stop that. Why are you exactly worried that lack of government won't be able to stop that? Oh. But it'll be worse without government.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they say.
That's usually the next line.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you live in a community or a certain geographical location that has these businesses and you find out that one of them is doing this, don't you think everybody would band together and be willing to pay for a service to monitor them? Well, and most people will agree to that. So, okay, why can't we pay somebody ourselves to monitor that system instead of the government doing it? Because the government just contracts somebody else out or creates a new agency with a whole new attached bureaucracy in order to accomplish that goal. Just cut out the middleman. Lately I've been finding that argument has seemed to be getting through to a lot more people. When you treat government as not evil and not immoral, even though it is, but as just an unnecessary middleman.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I would attack that one. Say, okay, if you really think that people are going to do that, then we all chip in and we pay for something. You know, a couple of them maybe. So we have competing ones telling us, again though, it's hard for a lot of people to understand just the simple concept of in a free society, there's always going to be bad actors. There's bad actors now. Most of them work for government, but that's another story. But there's always going to be bad actors. The rest of people have a vested interest in making things work smoothly. And that's what, again, so simple, but it goes right over most people's heads, because they automatically say, well, if government's not there, so what? Government's not there. We'll find ways to make it work.
I know, right? We need theft. There's no way around it. If we don't steal from people.
Yeah, because, then of course, if we don't steal from people, there'll be free riders. There's free riders now.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's usually my first argument. That's usually my first defense with any of those arguments is to say, well, are they happening now? Well, of course they're happening now. Okay, so your government's not doing a very good job.
Yeah, so my response to that one with the pollution is which entity is the largest polluter in the world? Is it corporations or is it governments with their nuclear weapons, with their genocides, with their mass murder? I mean, are you more worried about a stream or millions of people dying because of an insane government? Which one is are you more afraid of? And I think sometimes when people come up with these petty arguments over details, you conveniently forget. There's drone bombings happening right now somewhere, and it's like because it's not happening in our backyard, it's just easy to forget, right?
Oh,
And there's occupations in like how many countries now, that's conveniently easy to forget. There's no occupations here, but there's occupations everywhere else, right? So, being the nuclear superpower of the world, that's something that can be conveniently forgotten, right?
Of course. Well, that's cognitive dissonance at its finest. Most people. Economics is hard. That's why people don't pay attention to it, and government can get away with what they get away with.
Yeah.
Foreign policy is hard, so we'll let the experts handle that.
Yeah.
So, and then there's last year with the whole Syria thing, where people actually stood up and said, no, we don't want to, we don't want to go to war with Syria. We just want to stay out of this, which was actually kind of impressive considering the way things have been going lately.
Yeah.
But that was one of the first times people were actually paying attention and actually stood up and said, no, we don't want to do this. But for the most part, the news cycle changes and people forget about whatever was happening before, and then they move on to other things. And like you said, they forget about the occupations. They forget about, I honestly believe it's by design, the media just, purposely, they change stories and they, it's scary. It's like living in 1984, but not, or Brave New World, but not.
No, actually, I think it's much worse than 1984. Like what George Orwell predicted was nowhere near as intrusive as what's going on right now.
Yes and no. Well, we don't actually have we don't have the actual TV screens that shine into our apartment and talk to us yet, but.
True. But we have all the email, all the texting, all the phone calls, all the you got what do they have like micro they got? Did you see those microscopic drones? Like they look like insects.
Drones? Yeah.
Insects like they can just land somewhere and record anything and actually that's another interesting topic is the drones because immediately when you say the word drone, people think of or I guess maybe mostly us, think of dropping bombs or missiles on foreign countries, killing people. But the guy who made the original drone, he didn't make it to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
He made it like as a convenience. It's a new technology, right? But of course, with any new technology that has potential applications to kill people, the government's got to take it over and.
Well, it's like Skynet, man. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They gotta start somewhere. But I say that all the time. When people are always either complaining about or lauding technology, what I always like to say is technology is it can be and most likely will be our great savior, but at the same time, it's also the bane of our existence because anytime somebody comes up with something great and that can help, somebody else is automatically going to try to find a way to manipulate that and use that to their advantage. And unfortunately, it's either people from the government themselves or people that will use the government to help subsidize the use of said, which is just another good reason just to get rid of the governments altogether. Because look at all the damage they cause. Stealing all our good ideas, taking drones. We could have had the drone taxis by now if it wasn't for them taking it for military purposes.
I firmly believe that we would be way past roads in terms of way past roads and cars as a means for transportation. If it wasn't for governments being there and restricting innovation and with all the regulations and having a monopoly on the roads, right? So if it wasn't for that, I firmly believe we would most likely have flying cars or teleportation or whatever.
Of course, I mean, who was the guy? I forget the guy's name. Who had the water powered engine?
Yeah.
That he created sometime around right after Henry Ford came out with the combustion engine at first. And he never figured it out completely, but that whole thing got scrapped, and they never really, stuff like that's been going on for ages, where ideas have come and they haven't been perfected, but if people weren't allowed to work on them and they weren't regulated out of existence, or the government didn't sweep in and get the patent on it somehow, and then just hide it away and sock it away. I mean, there's tons of stuff out there, the whole flying car thing. I'd like to think that we'd be living in a Star Trek-ish world already if the government hadn't gotten in the way. I don't know about full teleportation, but at least 3D printers are the next step. That I think has been delayed because that's the type of thing that I'm talking about. Like just being able to create anything you want from your desk, literally. Just you stick something in and boop. 30 seconds later, it pops out for you.
Yeah. Like so some of the people who advocate for government, they say it's like the broken window fallacy. You see what we have today. You see all the things that supposedly done by government, like roads, bridges, tunnels, all that, and they say, you see, this is great. We have libraries. This is so wonderful. But the thing that you don't see is the unseen. Is all the potential that was destroyed because of stifling innovation, because of oppressive laws, because of strangulating regulations. That's what you don't see. What possibilities were destroyed as a result of that, and that's what people. I think that's one of the most difficult things to imagine, right? Like, and which is a similar thing with public school. Look at you. You went to public school. You turned out okay.
Yeah.
Well, how would I have turned out if I didn't waste my 12 years of my childhood,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, that gets back to the earlier conversation about settling. You don't realize if you're not pushing yourself and if you think this is all there is, well, look, it's so great around us. Why would we want to change that?
Yeah.
But exactly, like you said, it's who knows where we could have been. But again, people don't like to think that way because heck, most people are convinced that we wouldn't have the internet if it wasn't for the government, just because that worked for the government helped create it through subsidies that they stole from us in the first place.
Yeah. I've definitely I heard that one recently. But yeah, so
I hear it constantly.
Oh, you hear that constantly?
Yeah, I hear that one a lot.
All right, so I don't want to keep you any longer. So is there anything that you want to finish up with before I let you go?
No, I mean, it's rough out there. I just think everybody, anybody who's on our position who's already made the leap to heading towards a more peaceful life and trying to encourage others to do the same, is just gotta keep plugging away. I use the one mind at a time line a lot of the time because that's really all it is. You just keep talking to people. I meet a lot of people that are dejected. Because they have all these great ideas and they've gained all this knowledge, but nobody wants to listen to them. And they throw their hands up in the air and all these statists they're never going to learn. Well, most of us were statists at one point too, and we all learned, didn't we? I don't think I'm much smarter than anybody else. I just took the time and somebody took the chance with me to try to show me some of this stuff and was patient with me and answered my questions. So that's what I try to do now is I just try to,
Good.
like I said, with my clients, with people I meet on the street when I'm walking dogs. I wear my shirts like I'm wearing now, and
Nice.
just try to start conversations any way I can because I'm out in the world all the time. And, you just talk to people. And even if the person you're talking to doesn't pay attention, you never know who else is listening,
Yeah, it's so important talking to people, everyday people, wherever you are, grocery store, parks, playgrounds, libraries, anywhere. It's funny the conversations I get into at the grocery store. My brother is kind of amazed, the clerk is like, the cashier, she's checking my items, and then by the end, like I put my debit card. I'm already discussing the Federal Reserve, quantitative easing, and my brother's like, "How do you go from groceries to the Federal Reserve?"
Like I said, it's all about connecting the dots, man. You just gotta find that way. Once you start talking, if people are responsive, you can talk. You can find ways to direct the conversation to where you want to go.
Oh yeah.
And you just gotta find that in with everybody. And if they're gonna listen to you, especially in that situation, she's a captive audience. Can't do much about it.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I also find that it's helpful if I avoid using the word anarchist because that can be a deterrent. So to make it smoother, I just just do like the Socratic questioning.
Yeah,
and
that's the smartest way, at least that I've found to go about it. Just leave terms out if at all necessary. Like I said, I wear shirts like a billboard just to hopefully attract conversation, and it works because people will stop and ask me, and if they see certain things they've never seen before, it's like, hey, what's that about?
Yeah, awesome.
And you tell them, or you strike up a conversation with somebody about anything else, about anything, and you find find something that interests them right away, and then you know what your in is, and okay, we can try to work that angle.
Yeah, excellent. Good. Well, I like that. One mind at a time. That's the way we do it.
I hate hashtags for the most part because I'm not a Twitter user and I think they're silly. But
I don't do that either.
But I have used it from time to time on Facebook, and that's the one that I use all the time because it's true. It's really what it is. Like I said, you just go out there and you spread the message where you can. You drop the seeds, and whether it's in person, like you said, whether you're meeting people online or the cashier themselves or people you run into in the street, or if you're online talking to people, even if the person you're trying to talk to isn't listening, you never know who's watching or listening and picking up stuff themselves. And even if they don't ask you questions, maybe they'll go home and Google something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's all it is. That's all we can do is just keep plugging away, and eventually it'll only take a couple of generations once there's a serious enough push. So all we got to do is just keep putting it out there.
Yeah, probably like 10%, right? 10-20% of the population, very informed and willing to educate others.
That's all, and then start with the younger generations. That's all it's going to take.
Oh yeah.
It's like that. It's actually, I got yelled out of it this recently, but because it's actually a Victor Hugo quote that Ron Paul paraphrased, but that line Ron Paul uses all the time. An idea that's time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
Yeah.
That to me, I visualize that saying with the A and the and that starts it as the anarchy A.
Nice.
And that's what I think of every time I hear that now.
Nice.
And that's what it is. It'll come eventually. We just have to do our part and not give up hope.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, keep writing, keep blogging, keep doing, whatever you do, keep doing it. Awesome.
That's right.
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy, for the opportunity. So this is Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network. Wishing everyone have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.